Hi guys. So today I wanted to read a little story. Have story time. To read a story from a chapter, one of the chapters from my book, which is just that huge project I spent like 2 years writing and had to abandon, and it's just one of those projects that's kind of, you know, out there floating around and unfinished for the time being. So we'll have story time. And this story is called The Bold Heart of Economy. Are we, industrialized people, truly lovers of material, the great materialists? A weaver woman once told me a story about flax. In the old days, she said, a linen garment was outerwear in the first generation and underwear in the second. That means the garment lasted for 2 lifetimes. Linen's very long fibers gave the weave outstanding strength. So rather than disintegrate, the garment simply became softer and more supple as it aged from use. Today, this weaver told me, flax's long fibers, the very quality which made linen garments so esteemed throughout the ages, are chopped up into little pieces like cotton, so that they can be run through the same machines for efficiency's sake. Today's cottonized linen is a very different material from the linen of our ancestors. One day, on a different occasion, I was visiting the studio of another weaver, this one with old and deft fingers made magical from over 40 years of her craft. Her wild gray hair she periodically tossed back with an open-mouthed, dulcet cackle, out of either joy or hilarity. She spun, wove, and dyed her fabrics from either the cotton and flax pushing up from the soil of her garden, or the stacks of dogbane stalks gathered from the roadsides and other forgotten places, and piled up unceremoniously against the walls of her sunny studio. Large old wooden looms and a disarray of fabrics, dried plants, and paper images filled the wood-paneled room to overflowing. Such an ancient and mothering atmosphere as it was made me want to burrow myself into the cracks in the floorboards and stay there forever. As I gently fingered a few newly woven shawls, which were perhaps only a foot or 2 wide, in earthy shades of lichen-dyed purple, indigo blue, pink cochineal, and orange, I asked Louise, the old weaver, how long it took her to make each garment, and I asked her if she sold her work. A sharp cackle erupted from her small frame, and as we both looked at each other, with joy, full-heartedness, and subtle pain, I knew that our work was the same. I was in a company of a pair of those rare hands and eyes and rare heart which truly loved material and knew material to a depth which most humans today may never sense. The answer to my question I knew simply by the look in her eyes. Of course she could not sell her work. I looked upon the small green woad plants coming up in her garden beside motherwort and nettle. I looked at the glass jars of so many fetid and macerating plant things, many of which had been tended and developing their color for years. A many-step method of driving pink from unripe persimmons. Lichens which I knew she had collected by hand from the mountains and smuggled into a shawl around her waist. How can one possibly count the hours of this work? They bleed into infinity and undo the borders of time that man is accustomed to delineating. about the hours of labor I spend upon my own craft, which are a secret buried in my heart, not because I wish them to be so, but because they defy communication. I honestly don't know whether to puke or laugh. It is easy, I think, too easy, to hitch a ride upon the great train of modern society's values of economics. So deeply are these assumptions of value woven into the every facet of our turning and chugging machine of a world which forever promises increasing returns, that our allegiance to them, and my own allegiance to them, is invisible. Survival, rooted in a fear of lack, drives us to expect a certain exchange for our labor, a certain rate of pay in response to our effort and time. Yet what of the timeless? I think that we modern people know very little about what time truly is, and about the mystical nature of the material world. I think that we are strangers to the kind of material in which soul and earth are wedded, in which form abides, like as in a sacred fire, with the living formless. What does it mean if something is too valuable to sell? Human body parts? Artifacts too ancient? Family heirlooms? Animals nearly extinct? The genetic code of the oak tree? Why is the sale of these objects tabooed? We do not sell what we know to be holy. The price of these objects, which are so imbued with soul that we know ownership to be impossible, would be so high as to make the concept of pricing absurd and obsolete. That which is holy can only be given, and can only be cared for, as if we are a temporary steward who shall, when our hour dims, pass such a grail into the next generation's guardsome hands. We can tell so much about ourselves as a people by what we do and do not allow ourselves to sell. When, I wonder, did the stones and rivers, forests and mountains, herds and flocks and fish fall from pricelessness? Free is a funny word. Throughout my years of teaching about nature and her wild plant foods and medicines, I came to notice that many people, when first arriving to that field of learning, use the word free a lot. Free food, they beam excitedly. Free groceries. Why, I wondered, did this word free, which is a beautiful word, so close in meaning to wild, when used in such a way towards the beloved plants, cause me to feel such grief? How could this word be both a truth and an ugliness simultaneously? The word free means liberty, sovereignty, and without bondage, which is the ideal of all life. Freedom, both internally and in the world of form, is what all humans seek in their hearts. Yet how often the word free, in our world where nearly all is for sale, equates to cheapness. When we can slip out of the need to pay for items of inherent cost, we call it free. We call it a steal, because we are stealing from the very source of our life. There are some lines from a poem by Jalal al-Din Rumi, which go like this. I must have been incredibly simple, or drunk, or insane, to sneak into my own house and steal money, to climb over the fence and take my own vegetables. But no more. I've gotten free of that ignorant fist that was pinching and twisting my secret self. This is exactly what I and so many others have done, and what much of the culture of the world teaches us to do compulsively. The materials we feign to love in this modern world are costly. We know this. We may steel ourselves on one side of our face to protect our tender hearts. But are any of us truly free of at least some level of this awful knowing? Our items of metal and polyester and concrete, they cost us our freedom, both upon the earth and within our minds. These materials are the two-faced fruits of war, slaughter, victimization, greed, and annihilation. What true nourishment denies others nourishment and right to thrive? Plastic does not feed the body, nor does petroleum oil feed the heart. Nature's materials, the sweet fruits and the bitter barks, the fish and the fur bearers and the hooved herds, the fibers for clothes and the clay for our pots, are free, in that they are not bound to hidden slavery. They are freely given from all life to all life, if we rise to meet them. But they are given as gifts are, on a bed of love, because they are priceless and perfect beyond comprehension. As you are, as I am, as are the foxes, as is the oak tree. To confuse the gift of a fish's flesh, of a bark's medicine, of a spring's flowing water, with a commodity is, my eyes now see, the most poignant indication of our amnesia about who we are and who our mother and father is. This forgetting, this loss of our memories of the Eden that lives inside us, is the unseen root of a suffering which is shattering the whole world. It is the cry of the heart that no one hears, but to which we all bear witness at every waking hour. Our cries are the cries of children in hunger, of flesh burning for no reason but the spite of war and hatred, of Eden burning, and all the plants and animals in her kingdom falling into their eternal night. Did we even know their names as they were falling? My loves, if by the displacement of the act of killing to faraway places and behind closed doors our own eyes closed, then perhaps by bringing killing back into the sacred chamber of our homes and hearts, we might regain our sight and the memory of our mysterious and divine birthright. Kill what you love, whether plant, animal, insect, fungi, or fish, as your daily bread. Kill what you love, that you may lose the firm sense you once had of your barriers, identity, and limitations. Kill what you love, that the mystery may fill our streets and quiet places, and make whole what once was shattered. That priests and priestesses of the earth may walk again, and that perhaps you may find that you are one of them, and that your power, as you may be hoped or feared, reaches beyond the stars and deeper than the darkest night. Do you remember, cherished one, why you came here?